2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, and today we are going to continue our Satanic film adventures as we explore the sequel to, kind of, sort of. It is a sequel and it isn't, because it's another adaptation of a satanic novel of Dennis Wheatley's, which, if you have not checked out my copy of Dennis Wheatley's Satanic trilogy, check out our The Devil Rides Out discussion to see that novel. I didn't bring it along today, but I do have a copy of his novels, and I've at least read the first novel too. Today I have with me not the feature that we're going to be talking about, but I hadn't unearthed it last time, but this was my copy of the Devil Rides Out. It's on a double feature with Rasputin, the Mad Monk.
Very cool.
Hammer used to come out with these double features, and now they're like uberly out of print. And so anywhere that you look for this, it's like 100 to 150 and above. So I just so happened to find a copy for like $20. That was like really cheap, and so on and so forth. So, the film that we are going to be discussing today is called To the Devil, a Daughter. It was filmed in 1976, and it was directed by Peter Sykes. But let me just tell you what IMDb says about the film, and then we'll go into our first impressions of the film. Okay. So, an American occult novelist battles to save the soul of a young girl from a group of Satanists, led by an excommunicated priest who plan on using her as the representative of the devil on earth. Let me first tell you that this film was produced by Hammer Film Productions and Terra Film Kunst, and it stars Richard Widmark, Christopher Lee, Honor Blackman, Natasha Kinski, and Denholm Elliott. It is based on the 1953 novel of the same name by Dennis Wheatley, and it was, in fact, the final Hammer production to feature Christopher Lee, at least until The Resident in 2011. Originally, it was released on home video cassette as Child of Satan. So, first impressions. Boris, why don't you tell me what your first impression of this film was? And was this a first-time watch for you?
Well, yes and no. Like with most movies we have been discussing recently, I watched it once earlier today, and now with you once more. And during the second watching, I noticed one very interesting detail, which you know what I'm talking about. We will probably bring it up a bit later. But aside from that, the movie was quite enjoyable. It had some really interesting satanic imagery and stuff like that, which you know I'm fairly fond of. Now it did have some parts that I found a bit confusing. Some things that, at least as far as I saw, were left somewhat unexplained. Now you say that if I had read a book, maybe it would have been clearer. maybe it would, not sure, since I haven't read it.
Mhm.
But yeah, altogether it was good. What do you think?
Well, this is my second time watching the film, and at first I thought it was like a direct sequel to like the first film, but when I realized it was like a separate entity, and yet it was still somewhat connected, only by the simple fact that it deals with um, this the satanic idea, the principle of it, per se, you know, and the fact that it was written by the same person. So, but when I first saw this, and I saw the child claw its way out of the womb. I mean, the only other movie that I remember something like that happening was in an '80s film called "It's Alive."
Well, actually, as far as I remember, we didn't directly see the child crawling its
No,
way out of the womb.
which ultimately I think made us think of it in our minds. I mean, they it was very suggestive, you know, and they did enough to make us feel and think and be in the mood that okay, maybe this child really did crawl out of the womb, you know, and
Yeah, I
we
see
see
what you
some
mean.
and then we also see some disturbing imagery later of that so-called crawled out fetus. So,
Oh, yeah.
but in any case, so in the very beginning of this film, Christopher Lee um, plays a character um, of a priest that has been excommunicated. What do you think about Father Michael Rayner as we begin to uh, learn of him? And apparently, we get to see him 20 years after this whole excommunication thing. At least, what do you think about that beginning imagery that we see?
Well, he is a very interesting character. Now that I know his, well, more or less his story and what he believed in, when his beliefs were described, I even felt they somewhat made sense, but then again, part of his agenda was killing innocent people, which of course I cannot approve of. Now, at the very beginning, of course, I didn't know what to expect. It was still very mysterious. He was just being accused of heresy, and we didn't get to know exactly what it was about. But then again, there was this synopsis where we got to know that he would turn out to be some kind of a Satanist. So something like this could have been expected, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So after we see the Latin ceremony of this priest being excommunicated from the church, then it tells us that it's 20 years later in Bavaria, and we um, we then are led to be seeing um, a particular church or hospital or nunnery, where we first meet Catherine, who apparently, as we find out, she has been sequestered away since she was born. And as far as she knows, her mother died before like during childbirth or whatnot. And the only people that she has known is her real father, the good father, and a mother and father figure that appear to be part of this cult that we later learn she is part of. What do you think about Catherine as a character?
Well, on one hand, maybe in a way I felt she maybe should have been a bit better fleshed out since she is the protagonist, but then again, regarding the fact that she had the life that she didn't really she wasn't really able to develop much of a distinguishable personality, I guess. I mean, everything was predetermined for her. She didn't live in an environment where she could develop some critical thinking or something like that. So, while her character maybe is somewhat uh, not very fleshed out, at the same time it makes sense that she is the way she is.
Well, I, on the opposite hand, actually thought she was very fleshed out indeed, especially when she came to spend the night in our fellow novelist who seems to be the expertise of the subject matter at hand. When she cries out in the middle of the night and she's in that clear white nightie, you can definitely see her flesh underneath that nightie. And later on, you can definitely see that when her spirit is controlled by the good father, she has definitely some very good looking flesh. To me, she was definitely more fleshed out.
Nice one.
But I think paid attention a little bit more because though she said and let me just mention the novelist. The novelist is played by Richard Widmark, which, if any of you know, during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, he was well known as playing also playing a bad guy, normally in gangster films of the 1930s and 40s. I seem to remember him laughing, being a laughing criminal in a movie. And I know that he was very young at the time, and it was sort of like a babyface Nelson character, you know. So seeing him play a good guy, it was a first to me. So there is that aspect of this film that is very similar to the first film, at least, because Richard Widmark has been known to play the relative bad guy, and oftentimes I think he would play a creepy character, you know. So at least in the films that I know him from. So, and I know you may not be familiar with him as an actor, but
not much. I'm
but
sorry.
I am. And then, so he is a novelist of apparently we see him at a book showing, which apparently at the same time is at the same moment of an artist's showing. So his book is showing at the same time as another artist or a few other artists, and he's there for publicity's sake. So next we have the character of Mr. Bellows, I believe his name is in here. Henry Beddoes is his name, and He's played by Denholm Elliott. And if you've ever seen any of the Indiana Jones movies with Harrison Ford, he played Brody, his friend with the museum. So seeing him in this film is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
He always shows up at like some of the oddest moments. I think the last movie that I saw him in is he played a butler in a Dan Aykroyd, and I think it was Trading Places the last time I saw him in a film. And if you haven't checked out our discussion on it on Inside Movie School, go check that out. We did cover Trading Places, I believe, over the Christmas holiday last year, so go ahead and check that out. I enjoy him every time that I see him. He is a phenomenal actor. Here he plays kind of a nervous Nilly. What did you think of his character?
Well, I don't know. I didn't really have much of an opinion of him. In a way, I kind of felt sorry for him because his daughter was a part of the whole thing, and he was trying to fix the mistake he made by getting involved with the satanic cult and everything. But then again, he was the one who did it from the beginning, and he should have known that what he was doing wasn't a good idea. So,
well, I get the distinct impression that it was his wife that was involved with the church, and unfortunately, I think by the time that this came around and it was like his daughter's 18th birthday, he was starting to have different thoughts about his daughter's well-being.
Yeah.
Thank you. Demir, or I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Thanks for joining us. And
I can't see the comments. What did he say?
And Maid Butante, thank you for coming and watching our discussion.
Thank you for being here.
I love sharing movies with my good friend Boris here, and since we've been covering a lot of satanic films lately, this is to me this is kind of an obscure Hammer film, and just along with The Devil Rides Out. I mean, many of these are like so out of print, it's hard for some people to actually see them. So the fact that we're actually we're able to watch them and view them together is kind of cool. But then again, I'm kind of a collector, so you can kind of thank me for that.
Definitely.
So me myself, I wasn't surprised that Christopher Lee returned to well, he comes off as kind of a happy person, I guess, but in reality, his thought processes to me during this whole entire film are like so totally different and methodical, and I guess he's obsessed with this whole belief that he can bring the devil down to earth through this ritual, and we find that out as we go along, because Henry Beddoes, and the reason why I mentioned him is because he's the one who seeks out Richard Widmark's character, and basically tells him about the fact that this nun, his daughter, he wants his daughter picked up by him, and so that he can come and pick her up or something like that, and so he does, and I guess she is chaperoned by someone else, as she has taken a plane ride with this chaperone, who apparently is more like a bodyguard. And they're walking through the airport, and that's when the novelist, Richard Widmark's character, he just walks up and grabs her arm and tells her that her father sent him, and he did, because he has a letter of, to give her, because Henry Meadows had showed up at that party. So he came to pick her up, and he took her back to his abode. And that's when he starts questioning her, because he doesn't know anything about her or anything about the situation. And of course, Henry calls him later and tells him that he can't pick her up, and that she's got to stay there a couple of days. And that's when that's when he begins to question her more about like where she's lived, how she's lived, who she knows. What do you think about that particular scene? Those whole segments of scenes where he picks her up, he takes her back to his home and starts questioning her,
Well, actually, this part where he picks her up and those previous few scenes, the first time I was watching it, I found that part a bit confusing, because there were a lot of new characters showing up at the same time, and I somewhat struggled to pick up on who is doing what to whom and why, and so on. But yeah, it makes sense that this guy John wanted to figure out what's happening, and somehow, if I remember correctly, he did figure out that Catherine's father got in trouble with a satanic cult, and yeah, then he was willing to do what he could to protect her, which, in my opinion, is a nice thing to do, because people nowadays are usually like, if something like that happens, if they were not a part of that situation to begin with, they will usually just try to get out of it, no matter what happens to the other person. Just they're like, just because they don't know that person, even if they can help them, they just don't care because that person is a stranger, which I personally think is wrong. If you can save someone's life, then you really should do it if you can. So yeah, I think I think he did make the right decision there.
Okay. Well, with anything now, John Verne has now acquired a new ward, regardless whether he should or shouldn't, and I guess things begin to happen that make him believe that he's been placed in between good and evil. And one thing I want to mention that was happening in the background is, at the same time of this whole plane ride, when she's on her way to his abode, and this whole, before she even had to spend the night at his place, there is another woman who apparently at the church where this satanic cult has its birth, um, and I mean literally, we have what appears to be a doctor, a staff of nurses, the good father, and I would have to say the mother and father that we learn later is um, is her surrogate mother and father. I believe that were given to her to be her mother and father. That apparently were members of this cult, and but a woman named Margaret, who is pregnant, is led into the room. She is bound to the bed. Her legs and knees are then bound together. Her wrists bound to the bed. And I guess during the night, while Catherine is sleeping, she appears to feel the same things that seem to be going on with this Margaret. And I think that it has to do with all the things they had brought all the things that had been Catherine's into the room before they brought Margaret there, so that maybe she would experience, the same shit. He made sure that those were her things.
Yeah, that was another part I felt was left a bit unexplained.
Well, anything with voodoo, which has been misconstrued as being part of black magic rituals, because voodoo comes from Haiti, and that is the black magic from that particular country. The thing is, it's using an inanimate object that might be someone else's has been something that has been part of voodoo history. Pick up a doll, put someone's piece of hair onto the doll, stick a pin in it, and you'll hurt the person. Or
Yeah, I know a bit about that.
Well, that's the same concept. So, all of these objects that are hers that are placed within the room, of course, there's going to be a connection. And if you think about it, the girl's been shut away as a nun for like ever, and there's only 4 people who know of her existence outside of the church. You would have to think that maybe since that's all who knew about her mind is quite powerful kinetically, mentally.
Yeah.
Whether kinesis is in fact a truism is not up to us to decide. All there is a suspension of belief that it is possible, and then I think it's more the power of suggestion. You know what I mean?
I think so.
But what do you think about this whole birth sequence?
Well, it was rather shocking. I mean, at the very beginning, it was said that she was about to give birth, but then they tied her up in a way that her legs were tied together, and it didn't look like the child had anywhere to come out from. At first I kind of didn't know what to expect. but then I think she gave birth by C-section, if that's how you say it in English.
In a sense, I would say an almost demonic C-section.
I guess I think we eventually didn't get to see exactly how the child came out.
Just showing you the
Oh,
messages from the guys.
thank you, thank you all.
But in any case, um, it was definitely interesting and entertaining to watch in a way. It's like you couldn't peel your eyes away from it, and yet you almost felt like, you know, at first. I mean, when you, and then afterwards, what did you think about the whole thing where she explained some of the dream to Vern? What did you think about Catherine once she started talking about her church?
Well, the part when she was describing the dream was a bit surprising. I mean, when we saw her tossing and turning while Margaret was giving birth, at first I thought she was experiencing that situation through Margaret's point of view, but then it turned out she was in her dream she wasn't Margaret, but that child that was being born. That was a bit surprising.
Well, it was a little bit creepy sounding. Hey, that she was like that child that was clawing its way out.
Indeed. I mean, if someone did have a dream like that, it would be, well, in real life, that dream probably wouldn't really be like what coming out of a womb would really look like from the point of view of a fetus. I guess it would be impossible to have a realistic dream about something like that, since no one has ever really experienced it from that point of view. I guess, well, except for newborns who cannot remember it later on, if you see what I mean.
Oh yeah, and then of course and then of course he goes away and talks to the Catholic Church about the well, this is after this whole fetus has showed up in the mirror to haunt our dear little Catherine. There in the mirror is a puppet. Well, we know it to be a puppet of some sort, but it looked like a fetus. You know, it looked like an unborn child. You know,
yeah, but not a very human
not
child.
very developed.
Yeah, and I think it didn't really look like a human child, from what I remember.
No, in fact, it appeared a little bit later when she was on the altar. But in any case, I guess she was given a present by someone, and she was not supposed to open it until her birthday. Well, apparently, this was a pendant of a figurine of Astaroth, which apparently Astaroth in here is a statue of a man that it has his legs spread eagled.
Oh, yeah, on an inverted cross.
Almost an upside down Y. But there are moments where she has lapses of things that have happened, and we learn that she has been baptized already once, I guess, and she has a sort of a vision of that Astaroth thing being over her, and it's like it had images of her father fucking her, and Christopher Lee's character fucking her, and it was just disturbing imagery all around at that point in time. It seemed like there was some kind of an orgy going on.
Indeed.
But in any case, the Mr. Verne, Richard Widmark's character, ends up going off in search of Astaroth, because apparently he knows of a book that apparently is in the blacklisted section of the Catholic Church, of the grimoires of Astaroth. And he goes and researches the specific pages that Christopher Lee's character, Father Michael Rayner, had sought out himself. So he comes back. Well, let me just mention his friends, because he's got these friends. One of them, I think, is his publicist. His person who manages his social appearances, basically. And that would be Anna Fountain, who is played by Honor Blackman, and her young lover, David Kennedy, is played by Anthony Valentine. I thought it kind of interesting that his name was David.
I thought the same. Your namesake.
Yeah, I'm just not that vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I guess while he was gone, the father was found out. Mr. Beddoes was found out to having recant, and he was he basically imprisoned his own self inside a protected circle. But apparently he made a pact 18 years ago-ish, and the Christopher Lee character basically stowed away this pendant pact that he made with the cult from him, at least spiritually and mentally. So I guess in order to get him to tell them to where Catherine was taken to, because Catherine was mentally hypnotized or possessed to come to him, and she did through a doll of hers, and one of his in fact her surrogate father picked her up, and then also as well the surrogate mother actually gave all of her blood and her life to give her blood for the future baptism that will happen on All Hallows Eve, which is the same night as her birthday. What do you think about that whole concept there? The fact that they're going to baptize her with her mother's blood, and then they're going to rebaptize her with the spirit of Astaroth, which is in fact the devil. What do you think about all that?
Well, it's a bit complicated. I'm not sure if that concept has existed in any other story before, or I don't know, any religious book or anything. It was definitely new to me, and yeah, a bit complicated and difficult to follow.
Yeah, especially since the birth has to happen not through the regular circumstances. It actually has to come out of the stomach somehow.
Yeah, apparently, and for reasons we never got to know, from what I remember.
Well, an unprecedented birth where the birth canal was closed and no C-section was made. The baby had to claw its way out, and so at least that's what we think or feel. But there's still another ceremony that has to take place, and before they make that ceremony, we see a certain sword that's there upon an altar that you recognized the design for it.
Yeah, that was what I mentioned at the beginning when I said that I noticed an interesting detail during the second watching. So yeah, in 2017, I was going to cosplay Prince and Deviant from this Japanese anime series called Sailor Moon. And for the purpose of that cosplay, I bought a sword at a local antiquity fair. Eventually, I couldn't use that sword as a part of the cosplay because it was too heavy, but I still kept it as a decoration. It's usually on my wall. But yeah, now when I watched this movie for the second time, I realized the sword that there was on the altar was almost the same as this one I have here. Uh, Wait, the I'm sorry. When I was showing it to you, I returned the sheath in the wrong way. So yeah, this is how it normally looks.
Yeah,
And
the hilt handles there are the same design, and that piece that's on the end there that looks like the same design as the sword um, that was laying on the altar before they went to the place that they were going to. So that is pretty spooky.
Yeah, this whole part was exactly the same as on the sword I have, and this piece here, which I think is I don't know, to attach the sword to maybe belt or something, or to put it on a wall. I'm not exactly sure what this part is for, but yeah, it looked exactly the same in the
Well, I
movie.
know you certainly used it to put on the wall, so I guess so.
Yeah. Now the blade was not exactly the same as the one I have. Well, this one I have was sharpened at home by its previous owner, so yeah, of course it wouldn't be the same as the one in the movie. And I think there were some details here on the blade which aren't here on my sword. But yeah, uh, I was still pretty amazed when I realized how similar that sword in the movie was to this one that I happen to have. And which, funnily enough, I got this sword, like I said, for an anime character cosplay, so I got it at the time, quite some time before I was actually interested in all this satanic stuff.
As long as you don't start calling yourself Don Quixote and calling me Sancho, and singing to dream the impossible dream.
Nice one.
I don't mind at all. But in any case, not that the sword was used in any way, shape, or form. It was just a prop, but it was just uncanny as hell that you had a similar piece.
Yeah, well, what I have is a real sword. It's the blade is made of real metal. It's sharp. It could technically it could be used to kill someone.
Well, let's not say we
but
did.
no, definitely. And as long as it's in my possession, it won't kill anyone. I can assure you that much.
So that we know of. Anyways, moving on. So shortly after that is a moment where they, I believe Anna Fountain, she was in fact stabbed by a piece of mirror by the heavily possessed Catherine on her way to meet her masters, so to speak. And that's when David is found, and he wants to go with John Verne on this quest of finding out where Catherine is. If anything, he is a little bit angry, which kind of plays into the whole coming across Henry Beddoes, who is in the middle of some kind of satanic symbol, trying to protect himself from the possessive mind of the cult. And as far as he was concerned, Catherine was still with John Verne. So when he was told that Catherine was taken, he said he couldn't do anything unless he had his pact. And even though David tried to shake him a little bit and threaten him a little bit, he kind of shut up. He was kind of reclusive, inclusive, and couldn't really say much of anything. So they went to this church that apparently was somewhere nearby, where this pendant, this half moon pendant, it looked like. And we get another image. Well, we saw this similar image show up to Henry Beddoes, the image of his wife, which was Margaret. And I guess she had given, or her life was taken after the birthing process. I kind of assumed that she was the woman that was going into the birthing thing.
Yeah, you mentioned that theory. Now I'm not sure if it's true or not. I checked on IMDb. Henry's wife, he addressed her with the name Isabel or Isabella. I'm not sure now.
Okay,
And
yeah.
she and Margaret were not played by the same actress.
Okay.
But then again, it was 20 years later, so maybe that's Why?
Maybe that was her name once she became a cult member. I don't know. It's kind of left unfiltered in there, unfettered, not really set in stone. According to Catherine, her mother died before she was born, but Isabella did appear to Henry, and that's why he called out to her, and he said Isabella is here. So that's what made me think that Margaret was in fact Isabella.
Who knows? I guess.
Yep. That being said, well, the same image of Isabella appeared to David with the pendant in hand, or so we think. And this is just a mirage or an image or whatnot that Vern tells him to just ignore. He does not. And I guess, in a sense, the spirit of Henry was inside David at that moment. But Vern continues up to the altar, goes, grabs the pendant out, or at least what the pendant was on, and David, possessed by the spirit of Henry, goes up, grabs the pendant, and bursts into flame. What do you think about that? What do you think about that moment there?
Actually, I found it confusing. I must say I didn't fully understand why David he had to get burned to death when he touched it.
Well, I don't think he was the one that was supposed to touch it. And not at that moment in time. So he was just, and he wasn't exactly Henry. So I think because one was being possessed by the spirit of Henry, and that pendant was the constructive tool in which the Christopher Lee character, the father, was using to connect to them in some mental way. But regardless, he takes the pendant back to Henry Beddoes, who's still like shriveled up in the chair, and he basically tosses the pendant at him, and he's like, "Oh, the pact is broken." And he tells him where he is, and supposedly it's like at some structure near, like somewhere nearby. And so he takes his car and goes to it. Meanwhile, Christopher Lee's character, Raynor, has taken the lifeblood of the surrogate mother, and poured it all around in a circle around an altar, and you see some imagery of that fetus come up onto Catherine's body, and it looks like it's trying to go inside of her, and you see her somewhat naked bush, and you have to wonder about her as an actress. I think she is the daughter of Klaus Kinski, to be honest. And Klaus Kinski has been an avid horror actor in many Italian productions. He was in Nosferatu the Vampire, and Nosferatu in just recently got one in Venice, which is the sequel to that, from Severin. So, but Klaus Kinski, I know him as an actor. He was very hard to deal with as an actor. He had a volatile temper. So I wonder what kind of an actress this mild-tempered Catherine was. She seemed
Who
mild-tempered,
knows?
but in any case, I guess now that the pact was broken, John Verne took a stone and knocked the dude over that was watching, and and then it was kind of a standoff because it was him looking at Rayner, and they're like, Verne, Rayner, why couldn't you just be happy? And then he basically conjured up an image of Catherine, and she shed her clothes and she was walking towards him naked. Oh my God, she is so sexy. But
Right.
he tries to tempt her with her flesh, and which is kind of funny. You told me she was not fleshed out, and I thought she was so totally voluptuous. Of course, her curves are so curvy. Of course, she's fleshed out.
Those were two different meanings, so the word flashed out, but that was why I loved your fun.
I know. I just had to kid around with you a little bit, but in any case, he ignores it, and he basically tells him, "Well, you think you're protected?" And he's like, "I'm very protected." And he's like, "Well, now that I've killed one of your disciples, I'm carrying this stone over this circle. Your demons are very angry with you. They'll protect me." So he does, and he throws the stone at him. And I guess we get some very neon flashing moments, and he takes the body of Catherine, picks her body up, carries her over the circle, and he turns around, and it's like there was nothing even there. And then he tries to make sure that Catherine is okay. And what do you think about all that? That, do you think that was pretty cool? I thought that whole entire moment was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it definitely did look great, but like I said, it's one of those moments I felt were not explained properly because we never got to know why the body of the priest disappeared. Is he dead? Is he alive? What happened to him? And
Well,
then also,
just
yes.
like the previous film, when death, the angel of death, was sent after someone, they could not come back empty-handed. So, because he conjured up the spirits, they could not go back empty-handed either.
I guess. And also, there was this scene when Catherine was still on the altar. This demonic fetus entered her body, and as far as we got to know, it stayed there. Yet, when John took her out of the circle, it was implied that she was okay, and we didn't get to know what happened with the fetus. Did it disappear, or is it still inside her and still going to do something later on?
I think we are expected to believe that it could be either or, because she didn't exactly say anything afterwards. I mean, she could the devil could be on Earth, or regardless. We don't know. I mean, she did look at him kind of strangely, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe she was saved. I hope she was saved, but maybe it was too late. You never know. I mean, you're left up to thinking that she was saved, though. On the other hand, there are some questions still left.
Yeah.
but
That's what.
but That being said, what did you think about the production? Did you think that it was pretty good?
Well, for the time when it was made, yeah, it was pretty good. There are some scenes that maybe for today's standards don't look very realistic, but like I said, for the time when it was made, it was pretty good. What do you think?
I think so. I thought that the neon lights and the shadowing at
Mm.
times. I thought that the parts where the angles of the camera when Catherine was possessed and supposed to be coming towards them. I thought some of those angles were pretty decent, where you saw it from her angle and it seemed like a camera was following her or whatnot. It looked like a very narrow like viewpoint. It looked kind of psychedelic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and all that. That was kind of interesting. Um, uh, as far as favorite scenes, what was your favorite scene from this film?
Phew. Well, maybe this is a bit subjective, but I think my favorite scene was the one when I saw this sword, almost identical to the one I have. But yeah, that's because it's an item like the one I have. But as far as the story goes, whew, I'm not sure. Mm,
I think
Maybe.
I think that my favorite scene is when Catherine was experiencing the birthing thing, and you saw her in that see-through nightie, and
Oh.
you could definitely tell she was very voluptuously beautiful underneath. And uh, I, I like films that have no problems showing the flesh of females,
I
especially when
agree.
especially when they're very beautiful and whatnot. I mean, I know that at times when females were asked to do that, um, sometimes it was against their will, but uh, you know, I think it was needed at that point in time to go to the extreme to show you how deliciously sinful a film could be.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, so um, this kind of film tended to try to be as blasphemous and as in your face as you could possibly be against all social standards. So anything that would buck the tradition of what you would normally see in a Christian movie, for kids,
Definitely.
for kiddies. Would you say that this film was for kids?
Probably not. What do you think?
No, definitely not. But it was an interesting film, and I also enjoyed the music involved in this. There were a lot of chimes and
Oh,
a lot of. I love the score to this. I wouldn't mind having a copy of the score myself. Um,
oh, I agree.
it was. See, I'm looking up who was the composer to this. So the music was by Paul Glass, and oh, okay, he was the composer behind Bunny Lake is Missing, Fear No More. That's a Hammer film. Let's see, Nightmare in the Sun, Lady in the Cage, The Abductors. Yeah, not a whole lot to be honest, but it was definitely interesting music. from time to time. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say about the film in any way, shape, or form?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I did enjoy the movie. I just wish some things were a bit better explained. But yeah, maybe I would understand it better if if I read the book. So yeah, I think for those of you who are listening to our discussion, if you want to check the movie for yourselves, you definitely should.
I guess one of Christopher Lee's lines in this film was, "It's not heresy, and I will not recant."
Uh, yeah, he did say that.
Evidently, it was sampled by heavy metal band White Zombie for the song "Supercharger Heaven."
Oh, but was that song made before or after this movie?
The movie's title was also referenced by White Zombie in the song "Black Sunshine." To the Devil a Daughter Comes. And Kinski was 14 years old at the time of filming her frontal nude scene.
Ooh.
So, I guess she was very young, to be honest.
Yeah.
14 years old? The film was adapted by Christopher Wicking and John Peacock from the novel, and it was the second of Wheatley's black magic novels to be filmed by Hammer, following The Devil Rides Out, which was released in 1968. I guess Wheatley disliked the film himself because it did not follow his novel, and he found it obscene. He told Hammer that that they were never to make another film from his novels.
Oh.
Wow. And Wicking called the film an awful mess. There was no focus to it. He wanted to incorporate DNA as part of the storyline, but EMI refused because they felt this would make the film too much like a science fiction movie rather than a horror movie. And Michael Carreras said the film simply didn't work. The people who made it forgot about the ending. Carreras says he asked Nat Cohen of EMI Films for additional funds to do a new ending. I had it properly written out, and we knew exactly what to do, but Cohen refused. This was Goodliff's last film, made shortly before he took his own life while suffering from depression.
Oh.
Whoever that is. So, other than that, hopefully anyone who is watching, thank you for listening to our prattle.
Thank you all.
I enjoyed talking about this film. Yeah, that was my favorite scenes, and I also liked the ending scene when it went all like neon reddish in color, right before Christopher Lee, his character, disappeared. So for some reason, I just enjoyed that aspect of it. Oh, and the little demon puppet. I anytime he showed up, that was great.
Oh, indeed, it was.
It was entertaining, at least. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, and morning, wherever you are, and hopefully you'll be on with us next week.
Yeah.
Which hopefully we'll be back to our Monday routine, but if not, we may do another Wednesday. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, morning, evening, wherever you are, and enjoy. And
thank you all.
I would have the birthing process the natural way if I were you. I would not try this at home, kiddies.
Definitely.